Hi, I'm Faye. Welcome back to my channel. I assume you're watching this video because you yourself are worried about autism in your child, or maybe a child that you know and are very close to. I have a 3-year-old little boy called Dexter who was diagnosed with autism when he had just turned 3. We noticed signs in him from roughly around about 12 months. Dexter is currently non-verbal, pre-verbal, however you want to term it. However, we are seeing gains in his communication. We see progress all the time, and in some areas he is doing really well. In some areas he is doing really well above his peers. So I just wanted to give you that little bit of background before I dive in and talk about the topic of this video. And in this video I'm going to talk about why you should not worry yourself sick over the idea of possible autism or maybe a new autism diagnosis and worrying about the future. If you don't yet have that diagnosis, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying that you shouldn't worry because it probably isn't autism. Many people said this to me in the beginning. Don't worry, he's just a boy, he's lazy, he'll get there. He'll catch up. My son and daughter didn't speak till they were 3. Don't worry about us. Don't worry about that. He'll be okay. It's not that. This is unhelpful for 2 reasons. 1, it makes you feel like you're really not being taken seriously and that your concerns aren't valid. And 2, if somebody tells you you have nothing to worry about, it's probably not autism. Conversely, what they are saying is, if it is autism, wow, you've got something big to worry about. Our fears, whatever they are usually future-based. They are based on things that might happen one day in the future. But we never reach the future because we live in the present. Just think about that for a second. Put fear of death and grief aside for a second, because I feel like that's something completely different. Cast your mind back to a time when you were worried about something. Maybe it was something work-related or a serious family confrontation or that you were dreading or something along those lines. When that thing actually happened, was it anywhere near as bad as you were worrying about? Our worst case scenarios that we play out in our heads are usually far more brutal than the reality of them. That's just a fact. As humans, we catastrophize. It's what we do. Now, you might think that this particular worry about your child's future, how it will affect them throughout their entire lives, is something completely different, a fear in its own league. Because the chances are you care more deeply about this outcome than you have about many other things you've been worried about in the past. But fear and anxiety work the same regardless of the root cause. It triggers the same physiological response. It's almost always future-based, and it almost never plays out in the way that you're worried it will. When Dexter was 15 months old and was obviously completely non-verbal, never ever attempted any words ever, I used to think to the future. I used to think to Dexter, like, at 3 years old, I was terrified of the thought that he would still be non-verbal at 3. He's 3. He's, minus some word approximations, he's effectively non-verbal now. But you know what? I am way happier and more content now than I was back then. We're still a family. We are no less of a family than any other family. We laugh, we have family days out. Our family might be different in some ways, but everybody's family is different in some way. And every child you add to your family completely changes the dynamic. This is just your normal. We wouldn't have got this far as a species if we weren't resilient. You feel so deeply terrified about the future for your child because of your innate need to protect them, and that's what makes you a successful human being. In the same way that your resilience does. You know that age-old saying, like, oh, you're stronger than you think you are? Well, that is so true, especially when it comes to our children. You are absolutely capable of being everything that your child needs you to be. I want anyone watching this video to know that I'm not undermining the challenges that come with autism parenting. I know that there are challenges we have that parents of typical children don't have. Of course I am apprehensive about my son's future. Of course I am. Worrying serves a purpose. Anxiety and worry is an emotion that developed to help us cope with perceived threats and upcoming challenges. And autism is not a threat, but whether your child receives a diagnosis or not, you almost definitely will have challenges to deal with if your child's brain is wired differently. Worrying can actually spur you on to get things in place for your child that will help them to develop. Remember, Very, very important. Stopping worrying about autism or possible autism and stopping acting on possible autism are two completely different things. You don't want to stop acting. You don't want to stop working in your child's best interest. Act on the things you can act on. Seek out the schools in your area. Find out what's the best fit for your child. Connect with other families in the area going through the same thing. Reach out for practical advice. There's always something you can do. I think there's this expectation that therapy is the only thing that helps our child. And once you're on a waiting list for therapy, or maybe you can't access therapy, or maybe your child's already receiving therapy and it's not really helping them, if you're led to believe that that's the only thing that can help them, that leaves you feeling completely helpless. And if you feel helpless, your worries are amplified because there's nothing you can do. And I am a really firm believer that therapy is absolutely not the be-all and end-all. It just isn't. There's so much you can do as a parent. Once you've done everything you can do, worrying then doesn't serve a purpose because it won't help the situation, it won't affect the situation. All it will do is adversely affect your mental health. And if you aren't in a good place mentally, you're not going to be in the best place to support your son or daughter. You know, as parents, we're programmed to worry, but we have to worry in perspective. Before I talk about that, let me talk about something else. Let me talk about memories. The memories that you're currently building in your everyday life are hugely based on how you are feeling in your life. You will remember more about how you felt than what you actually did in your day-to-day lives. Between the ages of like 1 and 2.5, you know, the things that I remember most about my eldest son's life, that knot in my stomach, that horrible, like, sickening feeling, the feeling of being on the verge of tears all the time, going anywhere and not thinking about anything but autism. That's what I remember, and that's sad, and I could kick myself for that, and I could really get quite angry at myself for that, because those years are gone. I can't get that time back, and I wasted it. You know, when I watch videos of my son, I remember the thought process that went behind me taking those videos. I remember thinking, oh, I'll take this video because this will be really good to show the paediatrician, or this is a behaviour that autistic children don't generally show, so I'm going to take this as evidence that he's not. You know, all of those years, all of those months were about documenting, analysing, not enjoying him. I was too much in my own head, worrying about a future that I knew nothing about. I'm partway into that future, and it's fine. We have a great life. Dexter has a great life. We're all very, very happy people. I let fear control me, and I had no idea that I could actually control the worry I had around this word autism and what it meant for my son's future. For me, my change in perspective came when I discovered this neurodiversity movement that I now talk about all the time. The idea that all brains are accepted and celebrated, no matter how they are wired. The idea that all brains bring something to the table, and that diversity of brains within a species helps the species advance. And that there is no right or wrong way for a child to develop. I think for a long time I felt like my child was developing wrong because it wasn't typical. It had to be wrong. I was responsible, surely. I'm raising this child. He's my flesh and blood. That must be my fault. No, it's not my fault. And in feeling like something was my fault, I was doing my own son a disservice. Because if there's something wrong, then he's not perfect. And he is perfect. Of course, all children are perfect. In changing my mindset and owning my fears, it didn't change our daily challenges. It didn't change the fact that my son has autism. But it did change our family life completely. It made me happier. I think that in turn made everyone in the family happier. It enabled me to just get on and live life. And that's what everybody should be doing. Just live your life. Just enjoy it. Autism, it doesn't matter. It's just about being a family. It's just about everyone being happy. That's all life is about anyway. Honestly, I could talk about this all day, but I'm not going to waste your time. So, thank you for watching this video. As always, please subscribe to follow our journey. I'm going to be doing some updates soon on my son and where we're at with his progress, because I know some people are interested in how he's getting on. If this video was helpful for you, feel free to give it a like. It just feels weird asking people to like my video, but you know, if you want to, feel free. I will catch up with you soon. Bye!